to start with chapter 5, section 1. It's about biodiversity. So what is biodiversity? You know what diversity is, hopefully. Difference is. Biodiversity is the variety of life in an area. And it's determined by counting the number of different species in that area. So if it's more biodiverse, it means it has a larger amount of different species. It increases the stability of an ecosystem and contributes to the health of the biosphere. We need healthy, diverse ecosystems for the health of the biosphere, for everything to work. Extinction, you know what that is, occurs when the last member of a species dies. It becomes extinct. There are certain species that are at risk of becoming extinct. Have you heard of any of them? Yes, Josie. Rhinos, white rhinos. Anybody else know any?
The red fox.
Siberian tigers. Yeah. Siberian tigers. Actually, there's more in captivity that are in the wild.
Panda
For
bears.
example, panda bears as well. Yeah.
Polar bears.
Okay. Next page. Genetic diversity. So there's 3 types of biodiversity. Okay. The first type is genetic diversity. It's the variety of genes or inheritable. Kind of a big word, but it means characteristics that you inherit. So if we're talking about humans, your eye color, your hair color, your height, you inherited those characteristics. So genetic diversity is the variety of genes, the differences that we see in organisms. Different places in the world have different levels of genetic diversity. Genetic diversity increases the chances that some species will survive during changes in environmental conditions. If an ecosystem is more genetically diverse, they're going to be able to survive more because they have diversity of their genes. Another type of diversity is species diversity. It is what you think it means. Look at this map here. This is number of species, okay? This is the United States, Canada, and Mexico. What's more diverse? What has a larger amount of species? What's below Mexico here?
Cuba.
Panama.
Central America.
Costa Rica.
Okay? There's a wide variety of different species, okay? So species diversity is the number of different species and the relative abundance of those species in the community. Number 2. The third type of diversity is ecosystem diversity. The variety of ecosystems that are present in the biosphere is ecosystem diversity. And we've talked about ecosystems before. It's made up of interacting populations, very good, and abiotic factors within them. Okay. So why do we care? Why do we care about biodiversity? Okay, biodiversity has direct economic value. What does economics have to do with? Money. Money. So humans depend on plants and animals for food, clothing, energy, and medicine. Most of the world's food crops come from just a few species. There are medicinal values for plants that we don't even know about. Wild species in the Amazon, for example, that's where that picture is from, serve as reservoirs or large areas of untapped potential. They might have genetic traits that might be needed to improve crops in the future, for example, or help in the treatment of diseases. Okay, so it has biodiversity has direct economic value. Think about crops, think about medicine. Aspirin is an example of a medicine derived from plants. Okay? Aspirin, it helps with pain, fever, inflammation. Why do some people take an aspirin every day?
They're addicted to it.
They like the taste.
They developed a tolerance.
Headaches, maybe? It actually reduces the chance of blood clots.
The acetaminophen.
So if you're more likely to have a stroke or a heart attack, like myself, I take an aspirin every single day.
Do you take a blood thinner too?
That's my blood thinner every single day. And when I was pregnant with my daughter Greta, I had to give higher doses of blood thinners. I had to have a shot in my abdomen every single day.
Oh. So you administer that? It's like-
No, my husband did it.
If it's worse though, like there's pills you can get like.
Yes, they're
Like my dad has blood thinners.
Yep.
Those are like just hot, like more.
yeah, there are different levels of blood
What?
thinners. Aspirin's a minimal blood thinner, but heparin is an example too.
Yeah, or is that just ibuprofen?
Ibuprofen is
That's
best.
acetaminophen.
That's different than aspirin.
Okay.
Taking 78.
Tylenol, ibuprofen, and aspirin are different. They're different chemicals. Okay, so why else is biodiversity important? We talked about direct economic value. There's also indirect economic value. So there's all about the money here, but not easy to see. An example, green plants provide oxygen and remove carbon dioxide, including plants in the ocean. They provide natural processes, provide drinking water that we use, and it's difficult to assign direct economic value to these things. But they are very needed. So more diversity encourages that.
Rocky Balboa. That is not Rocky Balboa.
A third importance of biodiversity is aesthetic and scientific values. Aesthetic, what does it mean, Gunnar?
Asthma.
Yes.
It's
So I
pretty
put a few
dry.
examples of
No.
pictures that I've taken. This is in Glacier National Park. This was on the Germany trip this summer. Anybody know what's behind me there?
A mountain.
Yellowstone.
Rocky
The
Mountains.
Swiss Alps.
Oh, it's the Yellowstone.
Oh my
And
God.
this is in Switzerland. It's with very beautiful locations.
Jeez, that's pretty good. It looks like there's a fire in the forest right there on the right picture.
It does.
On the
That's
right
the
side.
sunset.
What?
You were very
I
close.
That is
swear to
the
God
thing
it's
the
not.
sun goes
Swear to God.
So there is value in maintaining healthy ecosystems that are beautiful or interesting to study. And it's difficult to really say what kind of economic value they have because they're valuable, but not necessarily monetarily valuable.
That's an opinion. What?
True. Have you ever been to Glacier National Park?
Yeah. Would you say it's beautiful? I think it's not an opinion. Thank you.
Storm, what happened to Be Quiet?
Okay. Okay. Extinction rates. A little bit. And by the way, you need to read chapter 5 and do the Learn Smart questions by tomorrow. Some of you are already there, so good job. Background extinction and mass extinction. Background is gradual process of species becoming extinct. That's why Siberian tiger is been slowly becoming extinct for a while now. They're concerned about the increasing. You guys gotta stop. Okay, mass extinctions is something different than background when a large number of species die in a relatively short period of time. An example, the dinosaurs, when they all went, it was a very short period of time. Yes. Yes, there's a problem with honeybees. They're worried about them.
That would end the world.
We could watch, there's probably documentaries about those, I'm sure. Okay, so 5.2 is factors that threaten biodiversity. Your book says that the high rate of extinction is due to a single species, humans. Natural resources are resources that we need that are naturally found in the biosphere. Materials, organisms. So we have water, oil, forests, rocks, minerals, soils, animals, clean water, clean air. These are things that we need that we can find naturally. One factor that threatens biodiversity is overexploitation. It's a fancy word for essentially the hunting of animals for their economic value or economic use. A few examples. Bison are an example. Josie mentioned the white rhino has been hunted for its horns and medicinal use, like I think it has medical uses. This is the oslet here, was hunted for its coat. And then passenger pigeons were overhunted.
I saw a wild one in Costa Rica.
Why were they hunted?
Okay, habitat loss is something else that's threatening biodiversity. Habitat loss is exactly what it sounds like, destruction of a habitat where different species live. And it has a direct impact on the biosphere. So destruction of the rainforest for their trees, deforestation. And another example is overfishing. Taking too much and not leaving enough to let them reproduce can harm a habitat, and that's affect the entire ecosystem. Stay here for a bit. This is a picture of what? A food, a food chain, food web. Anyways, the whales eat the sea otters, right? There was a period of time where sea otters were hunted, and their numbers were getting very dangerously low because for their pelts. So they saw a direct consequence in the ecosystem that otters lived in. One big thing that they could see right away, scientists, is if the otters were gone, what would increase over here? Sea urchins, and they did. They exploded, lots of them, and then what went down? The aquatic plants went dangerously low, so other animals suffered. So then they stopped the hunting, made it illegal to hunt the otters, and it got back to normal. Another thing that threatens biodiversity is fragmentation of habitat. So habitat is the place where an organism lives, right? That plot of land. Habitat fragmentation is when you piece it up into smaller areas. You fragment the land. This shows how roads, development for human use can fragment land. Why is that a bad thing? Sometimes. Problems with it. Smaller parcels of land support fewer species, reduces the opportunities for organisms in this area to reproduce with organisms in this area or species. Why would that be hard to do? To reproduce with species that live over there? Yeah, you gotta cross busy roads to do it. So either they're gonna be killed or they're not gonna do it. Because of the decreased cross reproduction, we're gonna have decrease in genetic diversity, which I told you is important to survive.
So we're just be able to make animals.
Yeah, probably.
It also creates something called an edge effect, essentially more edges that increases all of these factors or all these variables. We always see these edge effects in those areas. Other factors that threaten biodiversity, you're probably well aware of what pollution is. Pollution can be water, air, land pollution. The parking lot in the high school has a lot of litter pollution, okay? Biological magnification is something that happens in the water with pollutants. If you magnify something, what do you do to it?
Increase the size.
Increase the size. And that's exactly what we see in the water. If a chemical, write DDT down, or like mercury, gets into the water, this is what can happen, right? Do plants need water?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to take it up through their roots. Look, the dot here represents the pollutant. What's happening to the pollutant as you go higher up the trophic levels? Yeah, it's getting more magnified. Up here it's 25 parts per million. Down here it's 0.000003 parts per million. It's magnified as it goes up the food chain. DDT was a chemical that was used to kill, or a pesticide used to kill insects. They used to mass spray it, and after the malaria scare of an epidemic in the 1950s, they saw direct harm to the fish-eating bird eggs up at the top of the food chain. Their eggs became fragile, less likely to make it in the world. So they banned DDT because it was a pollutant that was showing biological magnification. You've heard of tuna? Tuna, if you eat too much tuna, you might get too much mercury in your system. The same concept there. Like tuna. Other factors that threaten biodiversity. We talked about water pollution, air pollution here, acid precipitation. What that is when sulfur and nitrogen compounds from factories combine with water vapor in the sky, it can produce sulfuric acid, nitric acid that falls down. It can eliminate calcium and phosphorus or potassium from the soil, causing plants to suffer. You know how if you drink too much soda, acid, it harms your teeth? No.
If fish can't have a conscious awareness of pain, then plants can.
Fish
That
can?
I
fact?
think fish can.
Fish can.
Think fish.
Search it.
They don't
You
have
think
think
fish can
fish-
see air?
You think
I mean, you
fish?
think fish can see water?
You think fish?
Another type of pollution we talked about before, another way to say it, of algae blooms is eutrophication. When
No.
substances rich in nitrogen and phosphorus flow into the water, excess fertilizer, causing extensive algae growth. Algae, you might think, oh, there's more food, but it's way too much algae that it will actually suffocate the things within it by using up all the oxygen supply. Yes, your question, Gunner.
You think fish can see water?
What does that mean?
We can't see air. They breathe water. We breathe air. We can't see air. So can they see water?
We can
Water isn't a gas.
Yeah, buddy. Water is water. Water is H2O.
The-
Hydrogen and oxygen.
Oxygen can be dissolved. They have it in the dissolved form.
Water is a liquid.
What is wrong with you?
Yes, but still.
They're the exact
I do
same
not
as-
know, Gunner. Some things I do not know, and that is one of them.
We can see air. It's just clear.
All right, natural resources. Should we?
You're looking at it right now.
What are some natural resources? We already named some.
Air.
Yes, clean air, clean water, soil, animals, plants, natural gases, things like that. The consumption rate is not evenly distributed. Go ahead and look at that. Which country or region uses more natural resources?
Canada.
Canada, and then we're close.
Second.
Canada really does.
Yeah.
Second.
I know, they're all nice.
Remember the other day when we looked at the population of countries? What was number one? China. What was number two?
China's more developed.
India.
Look at how little natural resources India
Yeah, I'm
uses.
confused by this.
India.
That's why they all walk in the streets and don't use gas.
Not every person has a car. They ride bikes. Things like that.
They have
All
a
right.
longer life expectancy because of it.
They fit 8 people on mopeds.
Maybe.
I saw that.
Natural resources, everybody, can be divided into two types: renewable and non-renewable. Renewable are replaced fast in a healthy ecosystem. Faster than they are consumed. So if it's a healthy ecosystem, these resources can be replenished quickly.
Oh!
Some examples: solar energy, plants, animals, clean water, and clean air. These are renewable. Non-renewable, they're still found on Earth. They're limited amounts. They can be replaced naturally, except it takes a long period of time to replace them. These include fossil fuels. What are fossil fuels?
Fuels from fossil oil.
My brother is a chemical engineer that works with coal, trying to extract every ounce of energy that he can from the coal. Okay?
Hey, cool. Hey.
Did you get that? Maria, you good? Tia? So, but really, a lot of times it depends on the context, whether it's renewable or non-renewable. If it's not a healthy ecosystem, you're not going to get clean water regularly or readily. Okay. If I say that we want to use our energy sustainably, do we have needs as humans? Do we need electricity?
Yes.
Yeah, we do need electricity to do our jobs. For example, I need to charge my computer. I could teach without it, but let's be real, I need it. But sustainable use means providing what we need as humans while keeping the environment in mind. What's my word here? Oh, recycle. Yeah. Using resources at a rate at which they can be replaced or recycled without doing long-term harm to the biosphere. So what are some examples of sustainable use that we're trying to go towards in America? Wind energy, solar energy, water energy,
Nuclear energy that's not used by gas.
Sweatshop
Yeah.
energy.
using something other than fossil fuels. My husband is all about using energy efficient everything. He'll buy the more expensive lights. Initially they're more expensive, but they save our energy costs and our energy bills in the long run. You can buy energy efficient washers and dryers, energy efficient vehicles, things like that. There's small things that you can do. All right. Biodiversity hotspots. So these are places in the world that have a large amount of diversity in a very close, concentrated area. Your book gives a nice map of these areas. California in the United States is an example. So they have lost 70% of their original habitat. Endemic are species that are only found in one specific geographic location. The California condor, a bird, is an example. These hot spots together in the world contain half of all plant and animal species. Those hot spots do. So there are targeted efforts by conservation experts to preserve these areas as a whole. There are also efforts to help save certain species, like the Bengal tiger is one example. Leonardo DiCaprio has thrown millions of dollars at saving the tiger because he has millions of dollars and he's very passionate about saving that particular species. I don't believe so. Mike Tyson does though.
Why not? Yike Tyson.
Okay, I was just kidding. That's in a movie. I doubt that he actually is a tiger. Okay. Protecting. So how do we protect it? Here's one example. Corridors between habitat fragments. They allow organisms to move safely between two pieces of land that a road has come between. I linked an example here of Banff National Park in Canada that shows a corridor. You can see it here, right? Look at how beautiful it is there, first of all. And there's the road, right? Humans need to use, but look at that's a passageway for animals.
What if they
We should take a field trip.
Yes.
They're all the way over.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Yep.
What if the animal is all the way over there?
What if the animal
You know what? You know what, Zach? There are people that study
Do the
how much
animals
it's
even
used
use
and
those?
who's used. Yes, they
I feel
research
like they
that.
still just
Like all the
walk
time?
across the water. Or not the water, the road. They just go.
For sure.
Not gonna walk over it.
Okay,
So that would be. Yeah, well, I don't.
restoring ecosystems. Communities can recover from natural and human-caused disasters. We had big disasters in the Gulf of Mexico in the United States, correct? It's recent, right? They can recover. Ecosystems can recover, but the larger the affected area, the longer it takes to restore that ecosystem. And I guarantee you, there are conservation biologists working on how they're going to fix Florida.
What did I miss?
And how
Is the last
fast?
one Safely? Is that what
Yes, safely. So look at this. A meteor strike is a larger area, and it takes more time to take care of that. Lightning strike is not as big of an area, and it takes less time.
Lightning strike.
Okay, there's other things. Landslide, oil spill,
I got my lightning.
agriculture. All right, we're almost done, right? Is this the last slide? 2 slides left?
Got my wrap.
Okay. So, 2 ways, generally speaking, to restore ecosystems. The first one's bioremediation. It's a big word, but what does it mean? It uses living organisms such as protozoans like bacteria or fungi or plants to detoxify an area that's been polluted somehow naturally. And I linked an example that I think is pretty exciting. I love small microbes like bacteria. And here's an example of how they are trying to get natural bacteria to clean up oil spills, to eat the oil that has been spilled into the ocean, using something natural to fix pollution.
Natural doesn't always mean good.
Look at that ad. You said ad said.
I agree with you, Cole, or whoever said that, Leighton.
That was a cold comment though.
It was a cold comment, okay? Another way is biological augmentation. Here is a lady beetle. That's the correct pronunciation of that. It's not a ladybug, it's a lady beetle. And those are aphids. Aphids are bad for crops. Lady beetles are good. So they'll introduce or add natural predators to a degraded ecosystem. This is called biological augmentation. Yes.
Wait, their actual name isn't ladybug?
The correct
Asian
term
beetle.
is a lady beetle.
Asian beetle. Wait, so why are they called ladybugs then?
Because that's a common name. Like that's
Yeah,
not a scientific. I don't know. That just took. Same with a starfish. Is actually should be called. It's not a fish.
Yeah.
Sea star. Okay. There has been works to try to protect biodiversity.
No, SpongeBob is alive and you're alive.
Yeah,
In 1973, there was an Endangered Species Act. Okay, we're almost done.
You aren't supposed to be here.
And they work to protect species that are close to becoming extinct. Okay. They also outlaw the trade of endangered species and animal parts, but it still happens. Have you seen the movie Rio? People actually do that. They bring birds, parrots illegally in the United States to sell them for big money.
They could order
Okay.
this online.
Oh yeah, you can order anything online. All right. I don't know if it's still filming me. Yay, okay, that's it.